Think about the last time you sat in a high-level meeting where the news wasn't good. Let's say sales are not as impressive as you would have expected, the market share is slipping, the vibe in the room is heavy. What is the first thing people start pointing out? It's marketing, isn't it? The board looks at the numbers and decides the agency is the problem, or the creative is too old school, or maybe the CMO needs to be replaced with someone who understands the new digital landscape. You perform the ritual. You fire the agency, you hire a new leader, you change the budget, and you wait. But then, 12 months later, you are back in the exact same room, looking at the exact same sliding chart, just with a different person holding the laser pointer. Well, I think the problem was never marketing. I wish this was just a small operational hiccup, but it is actually a much bigger issue. It is a governance failure, and today we are going to talk about the most dangerous version of that failure. The one that leaves no paper trail, the non-decision. Here is the thing, we love to treat symptoms because they are easy to see. If you are sneezing a lot, you take medicine. If your ads don't work, you change the ads. But in business, the sneezing is often just a sign that the entire skeleton of the company is out of alignment. In my Substack, Imperium Machina, I have been writing about why commercial failure is often just a leadership problem in disguise. We have to draw a line between a marketing problem and a governance problem. A marketing problem is simple. It lives inside the system. It's about which channel you use, what your message says, or how to track your clicks. If you fix the message and the sales go up, you had a marketing problem. A governance problem is different. It emerges when the thing that needs to change isn't the ad, it's the person who decides who is in charge of the ad, or the rules they have to follow, or the way the money is handed out. When the market is telling you that your current setup is broken, but you refuse to change the setup, no amount of clever marketing will save you. At that point, the brief doesn't belong to the marketing team anymore. It belongs to the people who design the system. It belongs to leadership. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Simone, this sounds a bit theoretical. Give me the facts. Fine, let's look at the data. According to Gartner CMO Spend Survey, which looked at hundreds of marketing leaders across the US and Europe, marketing budgets have been stuck at 7.7% of total revenue. That is way lower than it used to be before the 2020 crisis, when it was around 11%. But here is the kicker. Even though the budgets are smaller, companies are dumping more and more of that money into paid media. Ads on Google, Meta, and the rest of the merry band. In fact, paid media spending went up by 11% in just 1 year. So, companies are spending a bigger slice of a smaller pie on ads, even while the return on that money is actually going down. Ad prices are going up, but the results are getting worse. Does that sound like a smart strategy to you? It's a massive contradiction. Most CMOs, about 59% of them, say they don't have enough money to do what they promise to do. Yet, they keep pouring cash into channels that aren't working as well as they used to. This isn't truly a marketing mistake as much as it is a prioritization failure. And deciding what is most important for the company is, by definition, a governance job. McKinsey found the same thing. They looked at companies that were blowing 3 times the industry average on coupons alone, while also hiring 50 different research firms to do the exact same job. That kind of waste doesn't happen because a marketing manager made a mistake. It happens because no one at the top chose to stop it. This brings us to a concept that I think is the most important thing you will hear today. It comes from 2 political scientists, Bachrach and Baratz. Back in 1962, they wrote a paper that changed how we think about power. They say the power has 2 phases. The first phase is obvious. It's when someone makes a decision. For example, we are going to launch this product, or we are going to fire this person. You can see it, you can track it. But the second phase of power is much more subtle. It is the power of the non-decision. This is the power to make sure certain questions are never asked. It's the power to keep things the way they are, even when they are failing. It's the act of suppressing a problem so you don't have to deal with the fallout of fixing it. In a company, when you keep spending money on the same ineffective ads year after year, you aren't protecting a strategy, you are protecting the current balance of power. You are protecting someone's budget, someone's headcount, or someone's political status inside the office. The marketing team isn't choosing to fail, they are just doing what they were told to do with the tools they were given. The non-decision, the choice to stay silent while the ship is sinking, belongs to the leaders at the top. And just because there isn't a memo saying let's keep wasting money, it doesn't mean a decision wasn't made. Doing nothing is the most expensive decision a leader can make. For those of you who think this is just a management theory, let me give you a reality check from the world of law. Fiduciary duty, that big scary legal term for the responsibility leaders have to their companies, doesn't give you a free pass for being lazy. In the eyes of the law, especially in places like Delaware, where a lot of these rules are set, there is no real difference between a harmful decision and a harmful inaction. There is a very famous court case called Caremark. The judge basically said that directors and officials can be held liable if they fail to set up a system to monitor what is actually happening in the company. You can't just put your head in the sand and say, I didn't know marketing was burning $5 million a month. If a reasonably careful person would have noticed the problem and acted, but you didn't, you could be in breach of your duty. The question isn't who signed a bad contract, the question that really matters is who knew it wasn't working and how long did they wait to do something about it. Research from the ICAEW in 2023 shows that a huge number of corporate collapses happen because of these internal control weaknesses. Essentially, the board just wasn't paying attention until it was too late. I want to be clear about one thing in particular. When a company stays stuck in its ways, what we call inertia, it's almost never because the people on the ground are incompetent. Marketing teams are full of smart, hard-working people. If they are running ads that don't work, it's usually because their incentives are messed up. Maybe the budget they get depends on how many ads they run, not how much profit they make. Maybe they are stuck in silos where they can't talk to the sales team or the product team because the company's architecture makes it impossible. In fact, 36% of CMOs says internal silos are the biggest thing stopping them from being effective. That's a bigger problem than not having enough money or not having enough talent. And who builds those silos? Leadership. When a marketing team can't do its job because it doesn't have the authority or the information it needs, it isn't failing the company is failing it. The bird's eye view diagnosis is simple. There is no such thing as a purely operational marketing failure at scale. It is always a governance failure that is being allowed to show up in the marketing department. So where does that leave us? If you are a leader or if you aspire to be one, you have to look beyond the agency reports and the click-through rates. You have to ask the uncomfortable questions. At what level was this failure authorized? Who had the power to change the system but chose to keep it the same instead? We have to stop performing the ritual of corrective action. You know, the one where you change the faces in the room but you keep the same broken rules. That is just a way to pretend you are being accountable without actually doing the hard work, which is changing the organization. The non-decision is the most dangerous ghost in your company. It generates no emails, it generates no votes, but it eats your profit and kills your brand. If you really want to fix commercial failure, You have to join the architecture of the cure. You have to be willing to interrogate not just the what of your marketing, but the who and the how of your entire business structure. This conversation today is just the beginning. I know I have used some simpler terms here, but the actual mechanics of how this works, especially the legal precedents and the political science behind it, are much deeper. If you want to see the full evidence base, including the Gartner data, the McKinsey studies, and the legal breakdown of those caremark duties, I've written a deep dive pillar article on my Substack, and you will find the link below. It's called The Non-Decision at the Top of the Funnel, and it's over at Imperium Machina. That article was written for a different kind of reader, someone who wants to sit down with the research and really think through the implication for their own board or executive committee. The one thing I want you to take away today is this: silence is a choice. Doing nothing is a decision. And in the world of modern business, it might be the most expensive decision you ever make. That's all for today. If you found this useful, please share it with other leaders and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. Ciao!